Welcome back to the FreeThinkers of Clarksville. My name's Wayne, and today I'm going to be talking about whether we want a bunch of politicians down in Nashville deciding whether to teach your children about critical race theory.
Mike H. here. I'm going to talk about how our nice little community, our county, is one of the fastest growing in the nation, and with growth comes growing pains.
And this is Robert. I've got a story that is a little out of this world. We're going to be looking into UFOs and what one Clarksville man has to say about them.
First story is, Tennessee bans critical race theory in schools. Get back to the basics, says Klasick. Apparently that's a local politician of some sort. Comment section. Got this article talking about apparently Tennessee politicians are going to pass some bill or have passed a bill saying we're not going to teach critical race theory in schools.
Wow.
And just reading through the comments, a lot of opinions. One of which says, good. No place in our schools for politics or religion. Did a little free thinking after I saw that one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you even have a school and just keep politics and religion completely out of it? Even if you could, should the government keep politics and religion out of school and give kids the basics, whatever that would mean? What do you think, Mike?
I'm going to have to disagree with the opinion that this commenter has.
Okay.
I see where they're coming from, but personally, I think school is maybe the only place where religion and politics should be taught by trained professionals who are unbiased in their opinions.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like that.
Schools, as we know, teachers they teach any curriculum they're given, unbiased, without their twist on it. They simply disseminate the information to the kids as is in the textbook, and the textbooks we have at schools are mostly unbiased, so kids are getting a
Mike's kids are taught by Autobots.
Now, hang on a second. All right. So if you're going to teach politics and religion, I suppose then you got to say who's politics and who's religion. Right?
So all joking aside, when a kid is in school, they're going to be able to be exposed. Even the teacher has a bias of one way. They will, by obligation, teach as many sides as are reasonable within a particular topic. So if you're talking about politics, they'll teach where each major party, or even some minor parties, where they stand on each topic, right? So that's something that we can assume. We cannot assume the same thing if we do that strictly at home. So to me, it seems that kids should be taught politics and should be taught religion. You should definitely have a comparative religion course mandatory for everyone, because we live in a world where there's multiple politics, there's multiple religions. We need to be aware of them, and if we just rely on parents that are not ultimately familiar with all the religions, don't have the same access to teaching materials, child is just not going to get the well-rounded and broadened education that they need.
You've added a little nuance there that I want to poke at. You've talked about, from your description, simply learning about politics or about religions. Like, I can learn all about Buddhism. I learned about that in school. I can learn all about the Nazis. I learned about that in school. The difference between teaching about something and teaching something, that distinction, because if my kid goes and learns about the Nazis, okay, that's fine. That's the job of the school. If they go and they learn that Nazism is true, right? This is the correct politics. This is the correct religion, and I think that's what this bill's about. It's not about whether you can teach about critical race theory. It's about whether you should teach critical race theory is true.
Well, they don't call it critical race facts. They call it critical race theory, right?
That's a good point.
So it's clearly just a theory, and there's other alternative theories. There's theories that say that instead of race being the focus of the discriminations and things that we see, the inequality that we see, it's also class. So it's clearly that this is just one of many theories, and outlawing one, even though it's going to be, people are going to have to deal with people who believe it when they graduate and get out of school, to not have them be exposed to it when they can be taught, fairly well about it. That seems to me just handicapping the kids.
Robert, what do you free think about this?
Oh, I free think that the commenter is 100% batting 100. I mean, politics and religion are extremely personal, and some of the main things that we we inherit from and are guided by our principles that come from our families. So the school has no reason to expound or change anything that the family has taught or is instilling in their children, because that would be out of place for them.
If a school's not teaching politics and religion, what kind of classes would they teach a kid then?
Well, I mean, you could so what this commenter, I believe, is actually saying is that critical race theory has become politicized. So it's a political leaning theory that's coming in because there's a part of the political left, I would assume, is trying to force it down, this academic stretch. So, but it's only a political move. It's not something that they really are feeling is a part of our A's and B's and our 1s and 2s and 3s, right? So we just want to make sure that everybody has the level playing field and that we're not stretching people outside of what their parents are teaching them, because that would be the worst thing, right, for the family. You go in and you teach somebody against what their families taught them,
right?
Like not just opening their ideas, but if you have somebody whose critical race theory only goes one way, right? I mean, there's it has implications embedded in it that make white people feel like they're not very great. They have a horrible history.
That's called accepting responsibility.
That's fine, but why are you doing that to a 5-year-old, or a 6-year-old? What age do they really need to start taking responsibility for the color of their skin, or actions that were done by a long time ago? I mean, we have to start thinking about what is applicable, and we still have to think about families. That's why we have higher levels of education. I mean, general education is there to generally educate. Higher levels of education are where we go to open our minds.
Mike, we are talking about little kids here, of course, not college classes or things like that, I presume. But if we can't teach anything about politics or religion, I think you'd say you're pretty narrow on what you can teach. What class doesn't somehow involve something political or something religious, even something as mundane as, say, math. Right? You might think to yourself, well, I can teach math without getting into politics or religion, but even the shape of our numbers, come on, man. Where they come from, the history.
So I could get on board with holding off the in-depth discussion until they were in a higher grade, say high school. Shouldn't definitely not be any later in high school. Mm-hmm. I would say even in middle school. But I could see the argument for the elementary schools just learning, let's take let's not teach the controversy about where the numbers come from. Let's just teach the mathematics, right?
Right.
Let's not go in depth about the causes of all these historical events, but let's just make sure the kids are aware of them and that there are causes that they'll go into depth later. But to just ignore it altogether, especially in school, that just seems to be you're just going to hamstring the kid.
Robert?
Yeah.
Politics and religion in school?
Yeah, it's funny, though, because when you started this, I thought you were going to go a whole different way about it. I mean, the comment of no politics or religion in schools anyway, I mean, I made the comment that critical race theory was being politicized, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why that comment was made. That's why, it seems kind of strange that the government steps in to block something if it's not politicized in some way, right? We have a pretty red state with some right-leaning officials. Our governor, Miss Blackburn, and the whole trope. So I would imagine that the reason they blocked it was because they felt it was a democratically pushed, or something that was being pushed through the schools. So. Even to learn that it was a thing and that it got blocked is already politicized. So.
The decision not to teach politics and religion is itself sort of a political and religious decision.
Yeah,
right?
I think everyone on either side of this argument can agree with the idea that if the government is working hard to keep us from learning about something, we need to make sure that we know about it and that we teach our kids about it. I think everyone can agree that if the government's if the government's trying to hide it, trying to squelch it, then there's obviously something there of importance that we need to at least be aware of.
And I think that leads us perfectly into our next topic.
We're growing. I mean, we obviously know that. We see our houses going up everywhere, new companies coming in, but we are growing so fast that we are the 5th in Tennessee in growth and the 75th nationwide in growth.
As in the rate of growth.
In the rate of growth.
We're one of the fastest. 75th in the nation out of counties.
Out of counties.
That's pretty darn high.
Yeah,
That's pretty
That's
high.
there's a lot of counties, and we're growing so fast that our county mayor Jim Durrett, he says we're the best county to live in the state of Tennessee, and we'll probably get number 1 before it's over. So he's confident. Well, I mean, I'm confident. I'm going through, see new stuff come up all the time, no problem.
Yeah.
I think we're definitely growing. One commenter is actually less confident than that. All right, they worry, according to their comment, they worry that with growth comes an increase in crime. Is that a fair?
Ooh, it's a lot of likes too.
Yes, 25% people just on this comment agreed with it. Okay, I'm not sure that is a good thing. Crime is going up as well. Now, it seems like crime is going up as well. I see more stories, or hear more stories here about shootings, about different things going on in Clarksville. Now it happens pretty regularly, but it seems like it's been more lately. So do you think that, is there an increase in crime, and if it is that crime increase caused by our growth? Wayne?
Well, he says the crime is going up as well. That can be taken in one of two ways, right? If there are more people, right, even if they're committing crimes at the same rate, well, yes, there will be more crime. If more people move in and we have the same crime rate as last year, 1 out of a million people will commit a murder. Double the number of people will have double the number of murders. In that sense, crime has to go up if we increase the amount of people. It'd be weird for it to go the other way. What he probably means, though, and this is what I'll advocate for, is what he's talking about is the rate of crime will increase, and that's the nature of the place changing.
So just to clarify, more people means a higher incidence of crime per, say,
and that's
100,000 people.
Per
Sure.
capita.
And it's just the idea of becoming a big city, right? You get big city problems. No one's going to set up a giant criminal gang to move in lots of drugs to sell them where there are no customers, right? So anytime there's a bunch of people, it's going to attract both the good and the bad. And I think, no doubt, crime will go up. And if the paradise that people see and want to move to, they end up ruining. If I say, hey, I found this great beach, it's a lovely place, and it gets super popular, well, the beach was lovely because it wasn't packed full of a bunch of weirdos. I had a great time, had the whole beach to myself. Now, as a bunch of people crowding the beach, everything that was lovely about it gets ruined. It gets brought down to the level of everybody else. You take a small community like Clarksville, you promote the heck out of it, people move there, and then make it just like wherever they came from.
All right, Robert. So Wayne, he thinks that a bunch of weirdos are moving into Montgomery County, and it's going to bring a bunch of weirdo crime.
Weirdo crimes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I will go ahead and agree that yes. I mean, per capita, as population increases, everything increases. Though, like, we can't always just tint everything on the negative, right? Yes, crime will grow up, but also wealth and prosperity will go up. Taxes will flow through the city, and new buildings, new businesses will open. More economic prosperity for everybody. The city will grow so large now that we actually will have a big city feel to it, or at least a moderate. You think about, I guess if we're 5th in Tennessee, what does that mean? Nashville, Memphis, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and us. So we're actually growing faster than maybe Murfreesboro.
Probably,
Murfreesboro is pretty popular. Got the college there, and that's really who we probably would think we're on par with.
Right.
Is how are we growing compared to Murfreesboro? But I think I just think I think it's false to sit there and just look at prosperity and growth and just comment on crime, because two things about Clarksville I can tell you right now: there's a lot of veterans here. There's a lot of active duty military here, and Tennessee has a permitless carry law. We should start to see the effects of crime dropping pretty regularly, especially silly crimes like people coming in and trying to steal stuff, because people are going to learn pretty quick that this is not the town to do that in.
If you're moving down to Clarksville and you think it's going to be just like whatever town you were a criminal in the last one, our town's different.
Our town is different.
Bunch of soldiers walking around with permitless guns.
Heavily armed people with the tactical knowledge to to make a difference. Yeah.
All right. So you think the people that are coming here are going to be of the type that maybe wouldn't commit crimes, or if so, would it be harder to have crimes committed against them? Given the nature of the area.
Well, there's two things to be really considerate of. Also, is that with this growth, you also have to make sure that crime is an institution of what I think is the people who have been forgotten. Right? There's economic prosperity. People are taking advantage of it. There's houses that are built, but if we typically if we cast a shadow over those who are less impoverished in our town, and we're not doing things for them to give them those opportunities to make their lives better in some way, then we will see a higher influx of crime, because most crimes are typically committed by people who don't have other avenues, legal avenues to make money, or have the things that they need to get by. So
maybe would you say that then the philosophies and stuff that this community in this county is built upon will sort of mitigate the hazards that other counties that grow like we are might face?
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be all up to our elected officials, our representatives, and what we do and how we write to them and what we think is important. Crime isn't just something that exists with no out in the ether. I mean, it is produced by the social culture of the town, and we can rein that in as we grow if we pay conscious attention to it.
So, Wayne, would you agree with that? Would you be less certain in that in your response if you knew that the town was dedicated to reducing overall crime and providing prosperity for all those that came here?
I think anybody that comes to you and says, I have a way to grow our community, but I've come up with the way to grow it without the growing pains, I think they're selling you something.
All right. So is it hope or snake oil? Let us know in the comments.
All right, welcome back, everybody. The story you've all been waiting for. I know these boring stories these guys bring are hard to listen to. It's hard to debate them over, but let's talk aliens.
Yes.
Let's talk UFOs. Let's talk UAPs, okay? So we've all seen the kind of media attention to the fact that I think it was Trump issued in the Corona package relief bill from 2020 that they had to start bringing in evidence.
They had to bring a report, an unclassified report.
Report from the Pentagon, from the Navy, of unidentified aerial phenomenon or unidentified flying objects. So the Leaf Chronicle wrote an article, The Aliens Haven't Landed, Why You Should Be Skeptical of Recent Reports of UFO Sightings. So we had one of our local populace decided to write in and made this comment. It's not UFO, it's UAP, and people need to stop associating them with off-world entities. They're most likely of terrestrial origin, if they even exist at all. That's a bold claim. That's a bold claim to say that he's really pushing that it's not extraterrestrial, right? It's probably terrestrial.
Right.
So who owns the terrestrial powers to create these whops?
Right.
Yes. Mike, what do you think about that comment?
Well, let's just say that if UFOs existed, if they exist and they turn out not to be aliens, how disappointing would that be? I mean, you get outside, 2 a.m., there's something hovering above your barn. You pull out your shotgun and your cell phone, okay? Turn one on, you go up in there, and you start shooting at it. I don't know how you respond to a UFO, and you find out that
I think it's a cell phone and shotgun type of situation.
Yeah,
I think you're
so.
exactly right how I would respond to a UFO.
Right, and you
or,
see
or a UAP, as it's called,
UAP.
a WAP.
Okay, I mean, listen, if you can shoot it with the shotgun and the shells bounce off of it, it's a UFO. It's not a WAP. Okay,
Sure.
It's not okay.
Sure.
So, but anyway, to think that if you were to see that, and the first thing that's going to go through your mind is, oh, this is probably terrestrial. No, it's not. I mean, we're familiar with the majority of things on our planet that can fly, and we know what UFOs are supposed to look like. And so I think this guy, he's probably a shill for the UFO companies.
Oh,
so that's
UFO companies.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. Is he's trying to deflect? So
Okay.
this is clearly somebody who
he's
is
probably paid by the FBI to leave comments like this.
yeah.
just
So
to-
probably the Men in Black came in.
Yeah.
They gave him some money and said, "Listen, go on to all the Facebook posts in this area. You've seen UFOs. We're just going to try to just make everybody throw in some doubt there." So this guy, I think this guy is shady. That's my personal opinion.
Wayne, Mike's calling the guy shady. He's saying this is aliens.
for
It's always aliens.
for forever,
At least
people
mostly.
have been reporting unexplained phenomenon, right? And whether that phenomenon's in the air, the water, or somewhere else, there are things people have seen that they say doesn't fit with anything they've ever seen before, and you're saying that this guy's you think he's wrong, that it must be aliens. That's absurd. There's no evidence whatsoever.
There's
that
literally
aliens-
a mountain of evidence just released by the U.S. government
And it
that
showed
said
that-
these happen.
So this was written, I think, before the actual report came out. The report's come out, the declassified report, and it's just a big wet thud, right? There's nothing interesting in there. They're the same people that have been UFO enthusiasts, or as they now call it, a UAP, WAP. They it's the same videos. It's, oh, look at this weird thing. Look, it's a way to cope with something somebody doesn't understand, and it leaves out the very obvious explanation, which is there are lots of people and governments all over the world that are working on all kinds of interesting technology. The first time people saw an airplane or a balloon or whatever, they're like, this can't be right. No, it's just a guy, right? It's just governments, it's companies. We make spaceships, we make lasers, we make planes, and we make all kinds of stuff like drones and things that are classified and don't tell about. If the U.S. government, if you see one of their secret drones or something that they're using to test out, and because we know they use them all the time in other countries, if you see one here, they're going to want you to call it a UFO. They're going to want to make you. That's the purpose of a conspiracy theory, is so when people see the truth, they get to discredit them and say, "Oh, it's just a crazy UFO guy," because they don't want people actually talking about the real thing.
Well, that's really interesting though, because you bring it up. I mean, I think the commenter bring it up, and you kind of reinforced it. I mean, what is scarier, right? In the collective mind of all people on the planet, what is scarier to you, especially as an American?
Mm-hmm.
Is it that you are looking at a highly advanced piece of Chinese technology that flies and is undetectable by radar and moves in such ways that Navy pilots, people that are exercising use of our top grade, fighting machines, have now been stumped over? Or is it scary to believe that there are artificial or intelligence? I mean, that's the thing though too. There don't have to be bodies in these things at all. This could just be a machine that flies around. Would that be considered alien? Would that be considered alien?
This is what happens, and you guys may think I'm crazy or not. Okay, one government gets their hands on a UFO, a real genuine UFO.
Okay.
UFO somehow it crashes, whatever.
Right.
They're flying around all the time. We don't see them. Okay, let's just say that maybe that's true. Then you have the government comes in, they try to recreate it. So obviously they're not going to be able to do it as well.
Right.
So what happens when you try to recreate something and you don't do it quite as well as the original that's never seen or anything? What happens? It is likely to be more what? More seen. It's also going to show up on more pictures because you're not doing it as well. You're learning.
Right.
So these are obviously based on some alien designs. So maybe they are. Maybe the commenter is right in saying that these are terrestrial. So we get our hands on it. We're trying our best to build it up and make our copy of it. We're just not as good.
You think if
Maybe
Trump
he's
was still in office, that the real truth would have come out, or did we kick him out? Did the deep state, get rid of him so that they could prevent the real truth coming out in this report?
I mean, was it Trump himself that wanted that added in? It was himself.
It was added into a coronavirus
Well,
bill.
hey, Bernie guaranteed to Joe Rogan on his show that he would bring the aliens out too if he had got.
He's never been allowed close to that White House.
Here's the thing. As much as I want aliens to be true,
Sure.
if the U.S. government knew about aliens and Donald Trump knew that aliens were real, do you think he would not have said already? I don't. I know with every fiber of my being, he would have.
Seem like the sort of man that can
feel,
keep a secret.
I feel like there is a collective in the Pentagon and the Army and things like that that are intentionally always keeping presidents on the dark side of those topics because they cannot give those people that much information. It's not like you get brought into the presidency and they just reveal all the things that you need to know. You're still on a need to know basis because you have a bullhorn. So if somebody like Donald Trump just went haywire and just casted out everything, he's on a need-to-know basis.
So you're saying if the Men in Black exist, they probably didn't tell Donald Trump.
They're definitely not telling any presidents anything that they absolutely do not need to know. They will tell them when they're coming down from the skies, these extraterrestrials. They'll be like, oh, by the way, we saw them 50 years ago.
They're our friends.
They're not our friends. All right, everybody. Thanks for the time on the alien topic. We all love them. We all need them in our lives. Get some more WAP. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. What a great conversation we had. If you want to be a part of this conversation online through the portals that we find, please use the hashtag FTOC or FTOC Clarksville. That'll draw us to them so we can actually get more visibility to the topics you want to talk about.
And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, we are always interested in having new opinions come in, new speakers. Send us a message, FreeThinkers of Clarksville on Facebook. Tell us your thoughts. If you'd like to come on a show, you might get invited.
All right, and thank you again. And remember, as always, to subscribe, comment, like, and share. For Wayne, Robert, my name is Mike H. This is episode 9 of the FreeThinkers of Clarksville. See you next time. Clarksville, Montgomery County is one of the fastest growing nations in the country, but with great growth comes growing pains.
Stop. This can't be the biggest nation growing in the country.
Did I say nation?
It's something. And do you want a bunch of politicians down in Nashville deciding whether your child gets taught critical race theory? Well, stay tuned here. We're going to talk about that.
FreeThinkers of Clarksville, episode 10.
9.
Damn.
All right, I'm going to cut it off. Don't worry. We're good. Don't worry.
I wrote it down.